Why do you keep chasing someone who's clearly pulling away from you? And why does it feel like the harder you try, the more they distance themselves? Here's what's really happening. But before I explain the psychology behind this, you need to understand there's a specific 30-day strategy that will completely flip this dynamic. And I'm going to show you exactly how to use it. But first, let me tell you what most people get completely wrong about attraction. They think more attention equals more attraction. They think being available makes them valuable. They think consistency shows care. All of these beliefs are destroying your chances, and I'll explain why in a moment. Here's the truth. Nobody wants to admit. The person you're chasing has trained you to chase them. Every time you text first, every time you initiate plans, every time you're available when they're not, you're reinforcing a pattern where your attention has no value. But there's a way to break this cycle completely. The 30-day disappearance method. Now, this isn't about games or manipulation. This is about reclaiming your power and forcing a complete reset in the dynamic. But here's the critical part most people miss. The way you disappear determines everything. Do it wrong, and you'll just look petty. Do it right, and you'll trigger something psychological that's almost impossible to resist. Let me explain what happens in their mind during these 30 days. But first, you need to understand the scarcity principle. When something is always available, the brain assigns it low value. When that same thing becomes scarce, its perceived value skyrockets. This isn't just relationship advice, this is basic human psychology. Week 1 is where most people fail. They disappear for 3 days, see no reaction, and immediately break. They convince themselves it's not working. They text something casual just to test the waters. This is the worst possible mistake, and I'll tell you why. The first week is actually a test, not for them, but for you. Your brain will create stories about what they're thinking, what they're doing, who they're with. You'll convince yourself that silence is pushing them away forever. But here's what's actually happening in their mind during week 1. They might not even notice at first. They're used to your predictable patterns, your constant availability. But around day 5 or 6, something shifts. They send a casual text. Nothing desperate, just testing if you're still there. This moment determines everything that happens next. Most people see that text as validation and respond immediately. This destroys the entire process. You've just shown that your disappearance wasn't genuine, it was just another way to get their attention. But if you resist responding, something powerful happens in week 2. Week 2 is when the real psychology kicks in. They start wondering what you're doing, why you're not reaching out, who you're spending time with. The person who was always available has suddenly become unreachable. This creates genuine curiosity, not just casual interest. But here's the part that makes this strategy truly powerful. While they're wondering about you, you're doing something that will change everything. You're remembering who you were before you became obsessed with their validation. And this transformation is what makes the method work long term. You start investing in yourself again. You reconnect with friends you neglected. You pursue interests you abandoned. You remember what it feels like to be complete without needing someone else's approval. This internal shift creates an external change that's impossible to fake. Week 3 is when they realize something has fundamentally changed. You're not just busy, you're different. The desperate energy they were used to is gone. The person who used to orbit around their life has suddenly become the center of their own universe. This shift is incredibly attractive, but there's a deeper reason why. People are naturally drawn to those who seem to have options. When you were always available, always chasing, always hoping for their attention, you communicated that you had no other choices. Now, your absence suggests you do. This isn't about making them jealous, it's about demonstrating your actual value. But here's where most people make their second critical mistake. They see increased interest in week 3 and immediately return to their old patterns. They think the job is done. This ruins everything you've built. The final week is actually the most important. Week 4 is about establishing new patterns. When they reach out, you respond, but differently. You're not cold, but you're not desperate. You're friendly, but you're not always available. You've learned to value your own time and attention. This new dynamic becomes the foundation for how you interact moving forward. Now, let me tell you about their actual reactions, because this is probably what you're most curious about. Some will double down on their distance, testing if your change is real. Others will reach out directly, asking what's changed. Some will suddenly become interested in activities they previously ignored when you suggested them. But here's the most important part, and this is what separates this strategy from simple manipulation. Their reaction isn't actually about you, it's about their relationship with attention, validation, and control. Understanding this protects you from getting caught up in their response and losing yourself again. The person who emerges after 30 days isn't the same person who started this journey. You've broken the cycle of chase and retreat. You've demonstrated that your time has value. You've shown that you're not just another person hoping for scraps of attention. Whether they respond with renewed interest or continued distance becomes irrelevant. You've discovered something more valuable than their validation. You've remembered that your worth isn't determined by who pays attention to you. You've learned that the most attractive thing you can be is someone who doesn't need external validation to feel complete. This 30-day disappearance isn't really about getting them back. It's about getting yourself back. It's about becoming someone who has options, someone who understands their value, someone who attracts rather than chases. So disappear for 30 days. But do it right. Do it completely. Do it for yourself first, and watch how everything changes.